On a recent Sandy and Bob show, Bob was speaking to Claudia about the origins of humanity, Adam and Eve, the original monkeys made by the reptilians, and how it was determined that the original sin was in fact awareness, and how that then the snake that tempted Adam and Eve with this awareness must have been a reptilian. And this sort of posed the question, then, why would a reptilian offer awareness to the humans if the reptilian creators deemed it original sin and would not want the humans to have it? And interestingly, a theory I came across a while back would possibly make sense, would possibly answer this question. It suggested that there were 3 waves of human slaves actually created, and the first wave was made very much in the reptilian's own image, and so was very close intellectually, and in fact was so close intellectually that they would in fact break free of their bonds and would war with the originals, even set up bases on Mars. And this, it was suggested, was how the destruction of Mars came about, and the evidence of nuclear war on Earth millennia ago, a battle between these 2 reptilian factions. So it would seem that the reptilians would go back to the drawing board and create a second wave, a little more dumbed down and manageable this time. They would be unable to break free of their own accord, but the first wave of slaves returned and chose to set them free, maybe feeling a kinship with them. The first wave would possibly look very reptilian, and offering the second wave freedom and awareness may explain the depictions of the snake offering Adam and Eve knowledge or awareness in the Garden of Eden. It was then proposed that, accepting this awareness, Wave 2 went off with Wave 1, and again the originals returned to the drawing board and made Wave 3 a very dumbed down version, and this was then a success. So the question was, in there somewhere, was that I'm not sure if that would answer the reason as to why a reptilian would offer awareness to humans in the first place. So I'm just wondering what Duane or anybody else's thoughts on that might be.
Well, I'd like to thank you for confusing all of us with that story, but it was a good story, yes. And so again, there's many stories on this, and the so-called Garden of Eden and all these things. Who decided that, and where exactly was that, and was that on Earth or some other place, or in the astral realm? So again, it's the 10 monkey thing where you tell one person this and the next person that, and all of a sudden it becomes whatever it is. So realistically, there's so many views because they've done so many things. It's like a scientist in a laboratory. He's got so many experiments going on. After a while, he can't even figure out what he's done before, or how he mixed this or that, etc. So that's one way to look at it. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. It's again, there's been so many things done, and on so many levels too that come in to the physical realm here. And these are shapeshifters. So. Etc. I'm amazed at what the Federal Reserve has done since it was enacted, and before that, and the Jesuits and what they've done across the earth. It's so complex and into cyberspace, outer space, etc. So, but if you like that story, then you go for it, and I'm sure you'll have some interesting communications with others about it. But yeah, again, there's so many ways to view this, and it just depends upon whose experience it is and where you're hearing that from. But it's all fine. Yeah, it's all fine.
Okay, yeah, where I got that information from was actually an individual called Michael Tessarian, and him and a number of other researchers have sort of suggested that, and so it's just something that has been in my mind for a while. So interestingly, it seems the reptilian state of being isn't conducive for recognising awareness, and it was perhaps when they made the human that they inadvertently made a far more viable vehicle for awareness. And so that suggests that there's something about the human vehicle or the human genetics that is required for recognizing awareness.
Well, that makes sense. In other words, they at least recognized that, and this, in a sense, that's true, because we'll just use the idea of evolution, that they have dumbed themselves down so much because of their attitudes. It's really their attitudes. It's really their created consciousness that they can't get through. The body is just a body, but it is their created consciousness. Now, see, for them, they want to do certain things. And so with what I'm referring to here, it's workable, but with what they want to do, many times it's not workable because of their created consciousness. In other words, your little 10-speed bike is not going to go as fast as a race car, you see? So those are vehicles, aren't they? And so they're limited by their vehicle according to what they want to do. So if you want to race a sports car like a Mustang or something like that, well, the 10-speed bike is not going to work accordingly. So you have to see the view of the reptilians. What are they looking at, and what are they hoping to do? Again, their basic view is, they want to become more aware, but at the same time, just like the deceptors of the world, they want to better understand things, but for what purpose? And their intent is to control others. So again, they've locked themselves in to a limited position. Now you are the objective view, seeing what they're doing. So, you can think that, they're trying to do what you're considering. No, see it from their view, you see?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I wanted to share a dream I had the other day, and I pulled up in a gas station with me mum, and our car had broken down, so we were there, and we were having to wait. And while we were waiting, suddenly a film crew suddenly materialised, and they began interviewing this man, and he was speaking about the life levels, and he seemed to have magical abilities he was demonstrating for the film crew. And I never caught the individual's name, and I'd never seen him before, but I did manage to glean that he was from the UK as I was listening to what was happening. So I was thinking possibly this individual might sort of like show up at one point or another.
Well, yes, and you probably already know him. So was the idea, that the car that you were driving broke down? Was that it?
No, Mum was driving the car.
Oh,
Yeah.
she broke. Okay, your mom was driving the car. Okay, so but the car you were driving or you kids were in, it broke down or what?
Yeah, we just wanted to get some gas, and then when we parked up, the car was suddenly didn't work, and so we were delayed and had to wait, sort of thing.
Okay, so again, the scenario is kind of set up. All of a sudden, the car breaks down when you're just trying to get some gas. So, in other words, you might say the boys, created that situation to where you had to wait, you see, so that all of a sudden this film crew appears, and all of a sudden they're talking about or interviewing things according to what you kind of know, etc. So they're, making a movie or a documentary, you see, so that they're producing this so that you and others, wouldn't that be the idea, are able to see this, but you just happen to be there live with it being, when you're seeing the making of it. See, when you go on YouTube or watch the movies, you don't usually see that side of it, do you? You don't see the making of it. You see the end result. But there you are. You're right there during the making of it, you see? So there's the hint for you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, yes. Another experience I have, it's not a dream as such. It's sort of like an experience I have usually when I'm waking up from a dream. And it's a very common experience, and I have it maybe 3 or 4 times a week, in fact. And on waking, my room will suddenly be very different. The furniture will be arranged in a different way, and there'll be pictures present that weren't there before. There'll be a different colour scheme, etc. And then as I awake more fully, the room will snap back to its original setting. this is, as I said, quite a common experience. But on this occasion, the other day, I seemed to end up in both versions simultaneously. The room reverted back to its normality, but I was still in the room with its abnormal arrangement, while being in my usual room, and I felt a sort of a dual awareness in both, and was viewing both rooms simultaneously. Then, after a while, this returned to normal. So I'm not sure if this was a peep into another dimension or a life level or what, but as I said, it was when I was in a fully awakened state.
No, that's cool. So again, it's about awareness. Now you're seeing the difference. The so-called normal, what you call normal, okay, is that's what you've agreed to as what your personal life is, and you're simply you're being shown there's a difference, and you're starting to recognize this, and things are according to the choices you make. Now, the boys will set up a scenario like this. All of a sudden, they'll come in and they'll rearrange everything, put new pictures on the wall, etc., to see if you notice, you see? And so you did. You started to notice, and this sparks your awareness to where you recognize a difference, you see? So you did. Step one, there you go.
Yeah, I've had that experience for years. I mean, this is going back all the way to when I was a young child, sort of thing, and so even well before the new presentation. But I mean, to be honest, I couldn't fail to not recognise it or notice it, because I wake up and it's just the room is different. So,
well, you recognize it, but now you have a real relationship to relate to. You see, that becomes the difference. Now, all of a sudden, you see why you've gone through this experience in a particular way. You were prepared so that you could, now you have the real knowledge to put it all together and understand the bigger picture of why you went through that, you see?
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you for that. Yes. And there's another experience I have as well. This is actually during a dream, so it's like a lot of times in dreams I will be conversing with people, and I can't hear what they're saying. And if I try and focus on the conversation so I can hear them, the scene will start to fade away, and then the only way I can re-establish the scene is when I pull back again, and then the conversation resumes, but then I can no longer hear the conversation again. So I kind of I must not focus on it to participate in it more fully, but then, as I said, I can't hear it. And in fact, the other day I was having a conversation with you, Duane, and that was what I was experiencing. I knew I was having a conversation with you. I knew it was you, but I couldn't hear what you were saying, and it was quite frustrating.
Well, again, that's where the personal self comes in, and it's understandable because the real you has got it, and the personal self is there also, but it's really in its own way. It's not part of it, you see, because you're using that vehicle, and then the experience fades away. So it starts off there, but then it fades away. And yes, it is a little personally frustrating. I know I've gone through these things, and everybody does, but it's okay. So this is where, again, you learn to focus on your real awareness, which is, that is recognizing what took place, not so much the words and phrases, you see? And that's where it will eventually, you will all of a sudden understand, and there that becomes another recognition into the literal self. But at first, it's like, experiencing the real universes. You can have the experience, but it doesn't mean you recognize the real universes. It's like explain or say that, you learn to recognize what the sun is demonstrating. So you see the sun, you see it there, you understand, well, gee, there's the sun. But then learning, you might say, the language of life, and that becomes the difference where the personal self, because of what it is, it's just like it's just like your car. It's not going to understand because you're working through the personal self. You're bringing that personal self there too. So that part kind of fades away, and it draws, because we're basically housed in the personal self. So you learn to start to see things in a different way with your real awareness while you're in the personal self. So at first it starts off there so that there is a relationship with the personal self, but the reality of the communication or the exchange or the beingness that is there is more so than the personal self can understand. That's why, you see? But it's okay, because as you gradually recognize your real awareness, then you will begin to see, I call it perceive, this being to being relationship more so than the mind and the five bodies. A step at a time, you get it. Yeah, but again, the personal self, it can't take it. It can't understand that, so it just kind of fades off. It has a life of its own too, and it's very controlling at times because you set it up that way. It's like on automatic. It's kind of like the washing machine. It's got all these buttons on it, and sometimes there's a little short, and all of a sudden the water keeps going and it overflows. And so in a way it's in control, isn't it? Yeah. Unless you pull the plug or something like that, it's kind of like the idea. And the personal self is the same way. You've set it up a particular way, just like your computer, etc., to where you put passwords on it, and if you forget the password, you can't get in. So all of a sudden it has control. So things work both ways, don't they? So that gives you a little hint there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, following on from Pierce's question earlier when he was asking about ET disclosure. Recently in the UK, we've had a lot of drones buzzing airports in the UK and bringing them to a standstill. The drone story is reported to us by the mainstream news, and obviously the mainstream news is not the most valid source of information. And in fact, a lot of people have speculated that the airport lockdowns have been in fact due to UFO activity, and the drones are just a cover story. And maybe the aliens, for whatever reasons they may have, are ramping up their activity, making their presence known, and perhaps causing disruptions. Maybe the aliens are preparing us further for contact. Or can they be trying to disrupt our routines and planet-destroying activities in an attempt to break us out of our slumber? I know you've said that aliens are not going to save us, but what if certain alien individuals became aware to the extent that they were moved to assist, maybe at the behest of the guides or the ISSS?
Well, everything is workable, so you just take it in that content. Anything's possible, but in the meantime, you have wants, desires, wishes, and dreams, and those sound good too. It's like just like the people that follow the alien, the Palladians, and all this, Palladians or whatever, and the idea is that they're this or that, and that's fine. That's fine. And I'm sure that they're doing whatever they're doing because everybody likes to keep busy. Yeah, and that sounds probably about right. There's probably certain activity, and they'll just put drones out there. They'll do this, just different things to, use that as an excuse so that people, they don't know what's going on, etc. We know that. So, basically, I don't listen to the mainstream media or any of these things because, again, what's it based upon? I just take things moment by moment and see what's going to show up, and I focus on what I'm doing here because, again, we only have so much time. And yeah, there's a lot of activity in this world, and a lot of people want to think it's this or that, just kind of like in the movie The Independence Day where everybody goes to the roof. thinking that the big spaceships are going to take them up. Well, it was the opposite effect. So I'm not going to say it's this or that. You just got to wait and see what happens, because it's free will. And the aliens are just like us. You know, they want things to do or whatever, and they have the technology. So, you know, they get itchy fingers and they start doing funny things, just like the governments of the world have been using these lasers to destroy people's homes and things like this. In other words, they're bored. And so it's a bit like a big video game to them. And so as people are unaware of what's really going on, they are the effect of this. So again, anything can happen. I see this every day here with the world and how it is. You know, and for the most part, they're just out to destroy everything because this is fun time for them. This is their fun time. And so, yeah, being saved, people think that, okay, they'll come down, they'll take us to another planet or something like that. Well, you're still going to have attitudes and situations there, etc., and you may not even like it, or you might be their dinner. So the real cure for all is your real awareness. So in the meantime, I don't see people instantly becoming awake and aware. They can have certain things, but the overall, that's a lot to take in and recognize, etc. But, you know, there can be assistance there. There always is, like the Red Cross, which was created by the cabal too, etc. But for the most part, it's kind of wait and see what happens, you see, because again, they are the tricksters of this world. They're doing things all the time. And there's just like termites in your house. You can get rid of them for a while, but they're still there. They keep coming back because people have strong attitudes. They've been around, and it's survival to them, controlling the masses and others. And also, you know, this is the food bank here. This is human farming. So there's a lot going on here. So I don't go with cute little ideas of reform and this is going to get better or that's going to get better because of that. You have a total controlling system here, and you decide to wake up and see what's really going on. And the guides will show you when you're ready, but you have to still, you know, understand and develop yourself accordingly and move along those lines. So, yeah, it's... young man, anything can happen. And so with the drones and all that, yeah, I'm sure that that's what it is. And again, if you see it in the media, you know, they're always promoting deception and wanting people to agree with certain things or events or ideas, aren't they?
Yeah, yes, yeah, thank you for that, yeah. I used to be a very avid UFO watcher back in the day, and me and I used to rope my friends into going out and sitting on hills late at night and watching the skies, much to their annoyance. But they would always say to me, you know, oh, can we go down the pub this evening? I'd say, well, we'll go down the pub this weekend, but next week we're looking for UFOs. So anyway, yeah, I had another dream I wanted to share. In this dream, someone had I don't know who this person was, but someone had taken a photo of my mum, and but the photograph was distorted, and somehow this distorted image locked her into the picture, and then the distorted image in the picture began to fade away, and as the picture would fade away, she would slowly vanish too from the physical level until she was there no longer, and then she was completely gone. And as I was reading this dream before I was about to say it, I suddenly had a thought about how all the indigenous people back in the past would say if you took a photograph of somebody, it would steal their soul.
That's an interesting idea too, isn't it? Well, again, those are stories because, again, superstitions start, or stories, because people don't know. So look at it the Indians' point of view. It's like, okay, they don't know what a camera is. They don't know what it does. So they just figure, okay, it's bad. All right. So, and whatever, is it? I see the photograph because it's on the real side. And so, is your mom still around, or what's the idea here? Here in the physical.
Yeah, she's still here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, she's still here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When?
Oh, it's Gwen, right? Okay, I get you and Pierce mixed up, or Kevin, etc. Kevin or Pierce? Who am I talking to? um,
This is Kevin.
this is Kevin. Okay, yes. Well, it shows the real side kind of shows what's going on, and it would seem like a distortion, but again, just like the room experience, it seems different. You can say, oh, it's a distortion. And yes, these are relationships, aren't they? You have the mom and the son idea and whatever. These are ideas that we carry. And so now, who is viewing this experience? The real you is viewing this experience with the personal self also. You're housed in the personal self. And so the picture eventually fades, all right? So how would you see that? I see it a particular way, but this is a personal element with you. So how would you see that for yourself, Kevin?
It would seem to me as though she was, her awareness is perhaps switching more to the other levels of life other than the physical, because the photograph would very much seem to me to be of the physical sort of thing, and so the fact it's fading from it suggests intent and focus perhaps is now beginning to go elsewhere.
Well, there you go. That's one way to do it. And it can be many things, or the physical body or whatever. Yes. So again, we're given the experiences. I see them on the real side too. Sometimes they're black and white, but sometimes there's so many sides to them. But I like that. That's cool. And so, yeah. And also, as we go through this experience, because for lifetimes we've had these relationships that we've created ideas about, son, daughter, mother, brother, nephew, all these ideas, okay, friend, enemy, etc. We've created these ideas, but realistically, we're all beings of light. And when we start to see it from that area, there's a shortcut to all this. But for the most part, most people will cling to that personal self. They like these fun ideas, kind of like you looking for UFOs. You like the fun idea, but if one really came there and landed and you saw these space people come out and said, yeah, come on with us, you'd probably run the other way. Okay, so again, and I'm not saying you would, but for the most part, most people would run, even though they think it's fascinating. And so the same with this, what is being presented here, it's very fascinating, but to experience and be the actuality of it, that becomes the difference. So again, we all go along the lines of what we're deciding. But again, I like your experience, because now all of a sudden you're seeing it and you decide that. And objectively, see, with your mom, you're the objective view. And this is what I try to get across to people, and that is that, especially parents, they have an idea of their children, but it's really not what the children are seeing. Learn to see the child's point of view. See, this is what I did when I raised my daughter, Lindsay. I had fun with the real Lindsay, and the personal Lindsay was still there, but I went to the real side with her instead of just indoctrinating her according to the social system. I knew that was going to come anyhow, so I didn't really go there because that was just going to be automatic anyhow. So I went to the real side, and I learned to see it from her point of view. And I was raised by a mother too, and my mom had thoughts about me, and at one point she would say, well, you were like this, Duane, when you were young, and you were like that. And so I had a little fun with her, and I said, prove it. You see, that was her point of view. So again, it's learning to move our viewpoint around also, isn't it? In all these relationships, the relationship becomes better as you see yourself and others who they really are, not just that personal self. You see, that's still there. You don't negate it, but there's a bigger view. And this is where we surpass all the drama, all the things that come with the personal self, and especially with what's going on in the world, because everything in the world that's happening, where the world's being destroyed, is on a personal level. You see, it's not on a from a real view that makes sense. So that personal self is kind of funny, isn't it? So anyhow, yeah, I like your view on that, and there's many, but yeah.